After many years of living with our porch that we called the screen porch, but it didn't have screens, I finally broke down and put in the EZ-Breeze window system that we got from the amazing EZ-Screen company. But they're actually, the windows themselves turned out to come from EZ-Breeze Corporation. They're really beautiful. They've turned our porch into almost a greenhouse, a very pleasant space to be in. Now this is a second-story porch, however, and there's one serious problem with this, and that is that on the parts that are exposed to the floor below, the ground below, there's no railing, and these windows themselves are not at all rated for impact. Excuse me. They need a railing. Now, this is a problem because, as you can see, it's a nice open look. You certainly don't want to put wooden balusters and wooden railing back in front of it. Plus, you need to be able to get your hands in here so that you can open and close the windows. So, after looking at a lot of options, I decided to come up with a cable rail system. Now, cable railings are very clean, nice looking rails. However, there is an issue I have and had, and that is, what do you do with the inside corner? Because the cable railing would need to come in this way and then that way. Now, most cable rail systems are designed so the cable itself is centered on the posts. Obviously, that's not going to work here. And so I had to design a system using angle aluminum posts, and I designed a special post for the corner. I had that custom fabricated at a metal fabrication location facility near here, and they did it. It was very expensive to have done, and then I made all of the other parts, the other posts, out of asymmetric quarter-inch aluminum angle, and that was quite reasonable. I had to drill a bunch of holes and do some finishing work and that sort of stuff. And now all of the aluminum parts are currently out being powder coated. So I'm looking forward to getting them back. I've gotten all the other components for the cable rail system already, and so I'm looking forward to getting the painted parts back, and then I'm going to put this system up. But in the meantime, we really do enjoy our porch. It's a very, very pleasant space to be in, and particularly nice to just sit out here, maybe read a book or something in the rocking chair. Well, here I have most of the components for the cable rail system. These are the, I'll call them the posts that will be standoffs. The first one here will be for the right end, and these pieces right here are swaged stem caps, I think they're called. Basically the cable will be, and the only thing that's going to show from these is just going to be that nice clean end. This is the post for the left end, and this has the tensioner, and these will be put in here like this. I've got 1032 flathead screws with acorn nuts and flat washers on the other side. I also drilled and tapped the holes for that, so that should be pretty secure. And then that leaves 5 of these, which are the standard, the center rail, the center posts. I got a 400-foot reel of 7x7 1/8 inch stainless steel 3/16 stainless steel cable. And then I bought a swaging tool and cable cutter. Okay, on my left end, the post I'm using is not so large, so I had a special bracket made there. For the rest of them, I use this is 2.5 by 3.5 aluminum angle, 1/4 inch thick. And I should mention that these pieces are all 2 inch by 3 inch aluminum angle. Did I mention that I'm going to have all of this powder coated? I'm going to clean all of it off with thinner and get it all nice and clean and degreased and take it out, and they'll all be powder coated with black. Well, I have cut the handrails. They've been planed to size, 2 3/4 inches wide, 1.5 inches thick. I sanded them. I have filled some defects in the wood, and now I'm going to do using a trim router, 1/4 inch round over bit, rounding over the top edges of the of each one of the ribs. Okay, I have, at this point, I've put 1/4 inch round over on the top edges of all 3 of the railing pieces. Now I'm going to use the same trim router but with an 1/8 inch round over bit to break the sharp edges on the bottom edge of each one of the rails. Okay, the handrails are all routed, the edges are all done, sanded smooth, and so I'm going to stain them using, in this case, some Minwax Golden Pecan stain, and after that dries I will probably put 2 or 3 coats of Watco Danish oil on it. Okay, one thing I should mention, I guess, is that one, I've chosen this stain, this Golden Pecan, because this is the same stain I've used for all of our oak trim in our house, and so this will match basically, even though there's no oak trim on the porch other than this. But the other thing that I think is a tip that I would recommend is that when applying stain, I have found that these foam brushes are the best stain applicators I have found. They apply a nice even coat and not as messy as using a regular brush. Actually, paint brushes I think are the worst. I used to use a rag and that worked okay. It was also very messy, but it didn't give as uniform a coating as the foam brush does. Get these arranged a little bit. By the way, I am going to stain the back sides first. bottom sides. And then when I've got the bottom done, I'll turn these over. And any marks from the resting on the sawhorse will not be visible because these will be the bottom side of the handrail. Well, I've stained all three handrails. Now I just need to let them dry. It's not supposed to rain tonight, so I'll leave them out here on the deck and hope for the best. By tomorrow they should be dry enough for me to maybe go over them with a little bit of Scotch-Brite or something if there's any rough spots, and then hand rub in the Watco Danish oil. And again, the old foam brush did a great job. Very smooth and very uniform. Well, I got all my aluminum parts back from being powder coated today, and they look really nice, very nice and beautiful finish on them. And so I'm looking forward that tomorrow I should be able to actually assemble the cable rail system. The handrail's not quite finished yet. The stain is still a little tacky to the touch, so I need to let it dry for another day or so, and then I'll put some Watco on it. But I can get the cable itself up. So anyway, I'm very pleased though with the way that the aluminum parts turned out. Well, after lots and lots of preparation, I'm finally ready to put the cable rail system up. First thing I do is I find out where level is. I've previously done this, but I know again. Using laser level, which by the way is one of the handiest things you can have around, I am making it so that the bottom of the handrail will be at 36 inches at the lowest point on the rail here. Because this is a porch, the floor does slope, and from the wall over to the corner it slopes about 1 1/8 inch, 1 1/4 inch, and then from over here to the corner it also slopes. So the porch actually has sort of a diagonal slope of about roughly 1/8 inch per foot. So what I've done is, if you can see the red line, that is the laser level mark. And notice I also had to put a shim right here. And so this is where the top of the handrail bracket will go. And using a Sharpie, I have marked where the bolt hole goes. And so what I'll be doing is installing all of the brackets at that level. Then from there I will install the posts, the metal posts. I should mention that as I'm attaching these handrail brackets, I am using 5/16 by 1 1/2 inch stainless steel lag bolts, and at each location I have located them where the hole, and I've drilled pilot holes about 1 inch deep so everything goes in correctly. Not a big deal, but I want to make it as accurate as I can. Well, another stage done. All of the handrail brackets are up, and so now it's time to install the corner posts and the individual posts that will all go up. Each one of these posts will be attached using 4 5/16 by 1.5 inch stainless steel hex bolts, lag bolts I should say, and here I will need to use a standard level to make sure that they're all installed straight. Okay, I designed each of these posts so that they will butt right up to the bottom of the brackets and be at the height that I want them at. So the only thing I really need to do is to just make sure they're plumb. And more or less centered on the handrail brackets. So I can hold it still. Mark each of these hole locations. Come on now, get in there. This is where I could use some help, I guess. Wish I had it. Okay, let's try this again. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I think I'll get the first hole in the first bolt in, and then I won't have to separate and level it at the same time. So well, I've got all the other posts up. Now for the real specialty. This is my corner post that I designed and had made, and this will go into the corner like that, like this. Again, using 4 5/16 bolts. And I'm going to need to use my laser level again to make sure that this top surface here is even with the top surfaces of the other handrail brackets. Okay, I have the laser set up, and hopefully you can see this. The laser marks are right flush with the tops of the handrail brackets, and so I will, as I did the other ones, I'm going to locate the first hole, hang the bracket, the corner post I should say, and then attach the other bolts, and then that will be another major step accomplished. This next phase is one that I've been kind of worried about, in that I need to drill holes all the way through this 8x8 post, and to keep them straight and level without them wandering out is a bit of my concern. To locate them in a vertical dimension, I measured out, and they'll be 3 5/8 inches from the frame of the window. And then I'm going to be using the laser level for the horizontal location, so I can do each one separately like that. I suppose I could create some sort of a jig to do this, but I'm hoping that I can drill these 9 holes and get them accurate. We'll see. I bought some 12-inch brad point bits for the purpose, so let's see what happens. Well, I drilled the first hole, and I used a smaller bit. I used a 3/16 inch bit. The good news is I was able to hold the drill level. The bad news is it did wander. It wandered about 3/8 of an inch towards the outside. Also, I found I needed to remove the post from here because with the 12-inch bit in my drill, it was just too long. So what I'm going to be doing is to actually mark all of these holes. I know the distance from the frame is 3 5/8. I know the holes are supposed to be 3.5 inches apart. And so that's what I'm going to be doing now, using square and ruler and things like that. Well, as I was kind of afraid of, getting these holes drilled through here, and getting them straight, level, and all that stuff was rather challenging. The long bits tended to wander, and after 3 of them I used short grits. I located them on the outside. But one of the biggest problems I had, I've forgotten, this is not a solid post. This is a hollow post. And in order to keep all the wires and the cables in line, it worked out that the location is exactly right at the joint of where one board joins another. And this is a hollow post. And so I would drill in, and the bit tended to go off at an angle because it was hitting the edge of the board. I should have just moved them out a 1/4 of an inch or so that I was drilling through solid. Well, I have now gotten all 9 of the cables loosely strung. My corner post so far looks like it's working beautifully. As I was afraid, the most challenging part was drilling the holes and fishing the cables through this 8x8 post, hollow core post. Other than that, so far so good. I left the cables probably maybe 1 foot long. I'll trim them as I need. Well, I followed the instructions and unscrewed this portion, and it reveals the I guess the hydraulic fluid container. It says to spin off the top, which I did. It's not a thread, it's just a friction fit, and as soon as I did, fluid started coming out. So it definitely has fluid in it. This is actually a rubber type of material, and so I think we're probably good to go. Let me put it back together and get busy swaging. Okay. Something I saw, another tip from a YouTube video, and I forget whose it was, but thank you, is you want to make sure that when you're swaging, that the cable is all the way in. And so one of the tips they showed was to take a pen, so I'm using a fine tip Sharpie, make a little mark on the cable so that you know exactly how far it's in. You don't want to swage it like this. You want to swage it so that the full length of the cable goes in until it bottoms out. So based on that mark, you can see that the hole in here goes to about there. Well, after doing a couple of these, I found a couple more things. Is that that little mark? Hopefully you can see it. It tells me how deep the hollow part of the is. The other thing is that it's useful to go ahead and get the part in the crimper here, hold it in place, and then do this, and then start the crimping action. And I think that the first ones, there might have been some air in the line or something, because now it's crimping quite nicely. A lot of resistance. Loosen that, and then turn this back on. Okay, that looks good right there. That's about as hard as I can do it. And seems to be on there nice and tight. It may be useful for you to see what the crimps look like. It's not too bad. As you could possibly see on the tool, it is a hexagonal crimping tool. So it's not unattractive. One of the things that I would like to mention here is I found, if you look at the jaws of the swaging tool, you see the little black mark on the end. Notice that my first swage is going to be a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch outboard from the end. I found that as you get closer to the end where it's solid, the swage does not work as well. And so by moving out of ways, I can get a more complete crimp onto the tube and hold it more securely. And there's still room for 2 swages. Well, the cable rail is up. All the cables are in place and tightened. Everything seems to be working well. My corner piece that I made works fine. I need to do some cleanup. I've got some sawdust. This was taken all hands, so I wasn't able to take video as I was attaching the tensioners on this end. But these are fairly straightforward. I used the type that I drilled and tapped 1032 holes into my post for the end here. And just to be kind of overkill, I used some nylock acorn nuts on the back to make sure that nothing pulls out. I think it's kind of overkill. Swaging these pieces was in many respects a little easier than the other end because they're a little longer and not quite as thick. So the swaging went fairly well. And then I made it, I wasn't sure how much. So anyway, I made it so that when these were extended, I had 6 inches between the nuts and the nuts all the way at the ends. And then I hand pulled the cables taut and cut them to the right length and then swaged it. That, by the way, required my wife's help. It requires another set of hands to help hold the cable taut and in place while you're swaging it. But other than that, it went pretty well. So now what's left is to do the handrail, which shouldn't take too much longer. I haven't had a chance to put the Danish oil on it yet, or of course cut them to length, but that shouldn't be a big deal. Anyway, I hope maybe you've picked up a few tips on this, because I have not seen anybody else do a cable rail with an inside mount like this. Well, I'm ready to attach the handrails. I have dry fit them, and I cut them and mitered the corner here where it needs to go in. So I am about to drill the holes for the just 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch stainless steel lag screws, and that is what I'll be doing next. Just one little shop tip here. I'm sure you probably are aware of this, but I don't want to drill for my pilot holes for the screws. I definitely don't want to go all the way through the railing, so I put just a tape flag. I've got 1 inch of drill bit exposed, and when I go to drill these holes, I'll just go right up to the flag, and that's as far as I'll go. So that's a tip that, if you're not familiar with it, it's something that you can use over and over again on many, many, many projects. Okay, now one of the final steps in this project is to attach the handrail to the brackets. I've already attached the other 2 handrail sections, and this section is the last one to go up. I've pre-drilled 3/16 inch by 1 inch deep pilot holes at each of the hole locations in the brackets in the bottom of the handrail. And so hopefully they'll go in fairly smoothly. There we go. Finger tight. I designed this so that these handrails are flush with the surface of this 8x8 post. And what I'll do is I will attach the end bolts first and then do the two in the middle. I designed it also so that from these posts to the inside edge it's 1 1/8 inch. Because of some fluctuations in the straightness of the oak rail, it varies a little bit. The long rail in particular developed a bow in it, and so in the section in the center it's about 1/2 inch further out than if it had been perfectly straight. But it really works pretty well. Well, the handrail and cable rail system project is completed. As you can see, it is quite open. It leaves good visibility through the EZ-Breeze windows, and yet it's very strong. I made the end posts out of 3 inch by 2 inch by 1/4 inch thick aluminum angle, and they're bolted in place with 5/16 by 1 1/2 inch stainless steel bolts, lag bolts. The corner post, which was one of the probably the most unique aspect of this, is attached the same way, and it's made out of the same material, 1/4 inch thick aluminum plate. And then this end post contains the tensioners. It's attached the same way using the 5/16 inch lag bolts, and the tensioners themselves are attached using 1032 flathead screws, and I've got nylock acorn nuts on the back. I was actually short 4 of them, so I will be attaching, but the threaded holes in the plate are holding just fine as it is, but I will replace the missing acorn nuts. The tension is pretty good. I will periodically check these and make them more, adjust the tension as needed. So now maybe for a few of the lessons learned, that maybe if you are contemplating doing a similar type system, one of the things is I made it so that the bottom of the handrail at the lowest point is 36 inches from the floor, so the top of the handrail is 37.5 inches. Over here, because the floor slopes, the handrail is actually about 38 inches high, 37.5 to 38 inches high, which is fine because the IBC code calls for handrails to be between 36 and 42 inches tall in most places. In California, 42 inches. Excuse me. The cable spacing should be such that a 4-inch spear cannot pass between the cables. I spaced mine at 3.5 inches because most of these openings are much narrower. Like this is the narrowest one, and there's no way a 4-inch spear could fit between those. This is the widest opening right here, and if I tighten it up a little bit more, I don't think you can get a 4-inch spear through it right now, but once I tighten the cables a bit more, you wouldn't be able to. Now, as I was saying, lessons learned. The most challenging thing I had was drilling the holes through this 8x8 hollow core post. If I had to do this over again, I would have moved these cable holes maybe a ½ inch outboard. It would have made the cable so it wasn't a straight line across, but then it would have been just a straight shot through solid wood. As it was, I hit the edge of this board on the inside and it deflected the drill bit, and it made it very difficult to get the cable through, even using a small drill bit as a probe. Now, most of you will not ever have that circumstance, but if you do have a hollow post to go through, you want to go through solid wood if at all possible. One of the things to keep in mind is that each of these cables is tightened to about 300 to 400 pounds tension. As a result, there is a lot of stress that's going to be placed on the end posts, and in this particular case, the corner post as well. And so you want to make sure it's heavy duty enough and strong enough to withstand that kind of tension. Now, I used 1/8 inch cable. Some people use 5/32, some people use 3/16, and it can go all the way. Cable railings on commercial applications go up to 3/8 of an inch diameter cable. Obviously, the thicker the cable, the stiffer it is. A thick cable, you certainly could not go through a 90-degree angle like I did here. The cable type, I used a cable known as a 7x7, which means there are 7 individual strands, and each strand is made up of 7 more strands. So there's actually 49 individual wires in each section of cable. It's very strong, yet it's the most flexible cable type. And it is the type, the 1/8 inch is where the majority of residential cable railings are made from. I guess that's pretty much it. I used for the handrail itself, as I've mentioned previously, I made these out of some oak I had on hand. I laminated a couple boards together and ripped them so that they're 2 3/4 inches wide, 1.5 inches thick, 2 3/4 wide, 1.5 inches thick. I used a 1/4 inch round over bit on the top and an 1/8 inch round over on the bottom. I finished them with Minwax Golden Pecan stain, and then I used about 3 coats of natural Watco Danish oil. And it's got a nice sort of a waxy, smooth feel. And my experience in the past is that the Watco holds up pretty well to UV exposure. If I'd used a varnish, my experience is that varnish has a tendency to peel, and so I would not recommend using a varnish for something like this handrail. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed or maybe learned a little something from this video and the other ones on this series, and hopefully I will do some more videos of some other projects that I undertake. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.